The Tennessee Titans desperately need an edge rusher after the sudden retirement of Lorenzo Carter. And I'm here to tell you, it's time to send in the clown again on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On today's show, we are going to get ready for Tennessee Titans training camp practice, which happens on Wednesday, talking all about the biggest battles to watch. Also, we got some major updates from Tennessee Titans General Manager Mike Borgonzi and President of Football Operations Chad Brinker. We got to talk injury updates on L'Jarius Sneed, Lloyd Cushenberry, Kevin Winston. Also, we got to talk about this sudden retirement of Lorenzo Carter and what it means for the Tennessee Titans edge rusher position, as well as inside linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, cornerback, all of that on today's show. Before we dive into it, do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first to listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. You're not going to beat that anywhere else. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. And of course, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. You're not going to be able to beat all of the content that I'm putting out all year long, always for free. So make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But of course, the most surprising news of the day, for a second straight year in a row, the Tennessee Titans get a surprise retirement. Last year, it was Saahdiq Charles on the offensive line, and this year, it's edge rusher Lorenzo Carter. Now, you guys have been tuning in, my everydayers out there, you would know that I had Lorenzo Carter as a surprise cut candidate. Look, he just signed in free agency this year. He's 6'5", 270, great physical edge setter, good against the run, but not a very good pass rusher. I said, hey, if Femi Oladejo takes a big step in training camp, that could lessen the need for a guy like Lorenzo Carter. And if Femi takes his role entirely, maybe the Titans would decide to go elsewhere. Well, it looks like Lorenzo Carter cut himself here and decided that he was not going to be on the Titans. A sudden retirement, which Mike Borgonzi said was a surprise to him. I think the obvious reaction to this news is Femi Oladejo has to step up, right? That's the number one reaction is, hey, Femi, we're going to need you to really be ready to go right away. And Femi got his deal signed. He's good to go. He's ready for training camp. He is under contract. All is good. It's funny. I told you guys, as I was recording yesterday's show, that Femi would probably be signed by the time you hear this. And he was. By the time the podcast actually went public, he was already signed. So good that that's behind us. But God, do the Titans need it more than ever now after this news with Lorenzo Carter. Because you have Arden Key, who's your number one edge. Wish that wasn't the case, but he is the number one edge. And then you have Dre'Mont Jones, who the Titans brought in free agency. But I contend that Dre'Mont Jones is more of a 5-technique defensive end, more of an interior rusher in passing situations than he is a pure edge rusher. And then you have Femi. And Jalen Harrell, the 7th-round pick from last year, who's never going to be a true starter. He's just a good role player and special teams player. Guys who the Titans have got off waivers, like Ali Gay or Titus Leo, they don't have anybody. I thought the Titans already needed an edge rusher. The Titans already needed another edge rusher before Lorenzo Carter retired. So now that he did, yes, they're going to need Femi to take a step up, and they're going to need Femi to be ready to go right away. If Femi Oladejo can be a starting outside linebacker or a starting edge right away, the Titans are good to go. But he was a former off-ball linebacker in college. It was always going to take him time to develop. So that's why, to me, I needed another edge rusher already. Well, now the question is, You can count on Femi all you want, but if the Titans do go into free agency and sign somebody, there are a few options available, but there is no better option than Jadeveon Clowney. And I know that Titans fans don't want to hear that. Some of you don't mind. Some of you see what I mean and follow my logic here. But some people are just like, hey, 2020 was a disaster. The Titans signed Clowney for about $15 million. He played in 9 games. He was not productive. He was oft injured. It was always something, and people were out on it. He talked a little bad about the Titans after he left to go to the Browns, and some people are still going to hold that grudge. And honestly, the only person that really matters if they're holding that grudge is Jadeveon Clowney. If Clowney doesn't just hate the Titans, you look, not the same GM, not the same head coach, not the same position coaches. I mean, 52% of the Titans roster is different from just last year. It's much different than 2020. If you're Clowney, you had 9.5 sacks playing in Baltimore with Denard Wilson, who's now the Titans defensive coordinator. There is a massive opportunity with Arden Key and only a second-round player who's a development guy. And then Draymond Jones, who's more of a versatile guy. There's a massive opportunity for you to get major snaps. Now, Clowney played for the Panthers last year, which it's not like the Panthers are a great football team. So maybe he won't care that the Titans aren't probably going to be a super competitive football team. But the reality is you start going through the edge rusher options at free agency, Clowney is by far the best. He's by far the best because the other option is Za'Darius Smith. Now, Za'Darius Smith had a good year numbers-wise last year, but he's a rotational guy who's an older player. I would be in for Za'Darius Smith. I just think Clowney is a little bit better. And I think Clowney has the better ability to play more consistently in the role that the Titans have open, where Za'Darius Smith would be better in a smaller role for a better team. Maybe a guy like Matthew Judon, who had a disappointing year with the Falcons last year after the trade from New England, but the Titans could probably get him for a lot cheaper than what he was getting paid last year. Maybe a guy like Carl Lawson, but I think we're about 2 years removed from that being a real answer. So look at it. It's all older players who were disappointments at their previous stops. But for what the Titans are going to pay and the need they have, I think it's worthy to go check one of those guys out. I think Ogbo Orankwo got signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. He would have been a good option, but he got swooped up. So there's not a lot. Their edge rusher is, in my opinion, the second most important position in football. It is the eve of training camp practices for most teams in the NFL, or the day of, depending when you're listening to this. There's not going to be a lot of good options at edge rusher. And there's not going to be a lot of teams out there who are looking to trade their edge rushers. So the Titans have two choices. Either they go out and they sign one of these older veterans and give them a chance, which I think Clowney has the most upside of any of them, or they try to steal somebody off waivers when they get cut in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. And we're not talking about the guys who are getting cut for the 53-man roster cut downs in a month and a half. We're talking about guys that are getting thrown out of people's training camps. How much better is the waiver claim going to be? So go sign Clowney, Titans, but we got big training camp battles, not just to edge, but all over the place that we're going to discuss. Before we do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish that managing your money was easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. For me, when I first started using Monarch, I realized finally how much money I was spending on online shopping. Also, I just got into investing, and rather than having to look at multiple apps to track all my spending, investments, accounts, all of that, you can do it all in one place with Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Rougiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiet Ready. Rougiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. I love that it's completely online. Rougiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. Head to Rougiet.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit Rougiet website for full safety information. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, talking about the biggest training camp battles, and now edge has moved up to the forefront. Let's see what the Tennessee Titans do, but there's some free agent fits that I went over that I do like with Clowney at the top of that list. But looking at the other big position battles that we have in training camp, and we start at linebacker. The linebacker position is going to be an absolute bloodbath. You have the two favorites, in my opinion, the two young linebackers from the draft last year, Cedric Gray, the 4th-round pick in 2024 out of North Carolina, who barely played last year and dealt with injuries throughout the season. And then you have James Williams, the 7th-round pick out of Miami from last year, converted safety, who I think is the true favorite to win the job. James Williams is a little bit bigger than Cedric Gray. He's a bulkier build. Even though he was a safety, he plays with great instincts, downhill, he'll hit you, ferocity, and all of that. He just needs to acclimate to the mental aspects of playing linebacker, and I think helping him do that was getting a ton of reps last year in opportunities that were available, where a guy like Cedric Gray had an injury early on in training camp, never really got back on track, didn't play as much as a guy like James Williams. So I think Williams has a clear advantage here. I think he's been ahead of Cedric Gray so far throughout the process, but those two guys are going to battle it out. Do want to mention some of the older guys. Free agent, waiver claim edition, Anthony Ojiri is a guy who is a big physical player who can run and hit, who the Titans will be interested in. And then, of course, Otis Reese. Otis Reese is a guy who's been around the team for a couple of years now, who's also 6'3", runs sideline to sideline, can hit you. But I think with the two younger guys, since they're ahead of those older guys, and Ojiri and Reese already, and they're younger with higher upside, they're clearly the guys that are in the battle who we need to pay attention to the most, and James Williams is going to be my pick, but can't wait to see that start to actually play out. With linebacker, you could talk about putting the pads on, but pass coverage is going to be a big thing for these linebackers. The Titans have to get better with their pass coverage over the middle of the field. James Williams is a former safety. You'd be like, oh, he's probably good to go, but it's totally different when you're coming downhill from the top as opposed to going back from the mid-range where the linebackers are. So curious to see how that plays out. But then the young wide receivers. I mean, let's be honest. Outside of Cam Ward, is there anything more fascinating with this Titans team than this young wide receiver group? Obviously, you're going to have your vets at the top. Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson. Some don't think that Tyler Lockett should be certified in that group, but I do. So those three guys. But after that, how many spots are there going to be? Who's going to take those spots? Are the Titans going to keep 7 wide receivers? Are they only going to keep 6? If they keep 6 and those 3 veterans make it, we have Io Manor, we have DK, we have Restrepo. Those are 3 rookies that I would like to see make the team. That leaves one other spot. if there's even 7. If there's 6, there is no other open spot. That is going to be a bloodbath. Who's going to step up? There are guys like Bryce Oliver, guys like Colton Dow, Jaquan Jackson. We're all hoping to get in the mix, stay in the mix, and maybe get their roster spot. Mason Kinsey, I think, understands who he is and where he's at. But hey, you never know. He's going to be trying to make his breakthrough. Treylon Burks is a former first-round pick, complete afterthought. Everyone says that he is good to go. Going into camp, we heard from Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Treylon Burks, good to go into camp. It's time. Is he actually going to make the roster? Can he beat out some of these other young guys? That wide receiver battle is going to be so much fun to watch. And staying in the skill positions, maybe I'm the one who is keeping this conversation alive. It is just solely me. But Gunnar Helm, Chigakonkwo, the battle for tight end 1. I think that's a real battle. It's a real competition for who can get the most snaps right there. I think that Gunnar Helm, obviously, is a more versatile player because he's a bigger body and he can block a little bit better. But Chigakonkwo is an explosive playmaker, and he had, I believe, the most catches of any player during Tennessee Titans mandatory minicamp. His connection with Cam Ward seems to be good. They're working out together down in Miami and stuff like that. Like, Chigakonkwo could have a massive season, and maybe they could just be like, hey, we can't take him off the field even if he can't block that well. So watching that play out will be huge. Also, there are some depth spots. Offensive line depth. We know who the starters are. We know that Corey Levin is the backup center and will probably make the team based on that. But Duncan, Crenshaw Dixon, Ojukwu, Udo at tackle. You go to guard. Blake Hance, Jackson Slater, Sam Mustipher, Brandon Jamies, Andrew Rupsich. There's so much competition there with the depth pieces. Also, think about cornerback. We're going to talk about L'Jarius Sneed. Very disappointing update on L'Jarius Sneed that we're going to go over and we're going to talk about. But let that go and think about the cornerback depth. We've discussed this a little bit. Outside of the top 4, where you have Sneed, who, let's assume, Sneed's not around. Then you have your top 3 of Roger McCreary, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., and Darrell Baker. That's your top 3 cornerbacks. That's pretty bad, folks. That's a pretty tough group, okay? And then after that, a bunch of undrafted free agents. The Titans brought in like 7 or 8 undrafted free agent cornerbacks. Like Jamari Harris, who I like. You know what I mean? Gabe Judy Lawley is still around, who I've had hope for, but hasn't taken that step. Marcus Harris, a guy they drafted in the 6th round, speedster. Is he going to step up? Like, the depth at cornerback right now, it's scary. It's unknown. It's uncertain. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I would expect they're going to churn that position quite a bit, but, that all depends on who's available and who's out there. And then finally, kick returner, punt returner. Who's going to win those jobs? I think Chim Dike is going to be involved in both of those. Xavier Restrepo, it would help him out a ton if he was able to be a Titan starting returner. Like, that would be massive for Xavier Restrepo. So, who are going to win these spots? Special teams has to be better this year. I think it's more important than people think. But with that being said, again, L'Jarius Sneed, we got a major injury update. We got a ton of updates on the injury front that I want to go over, and some interesting comments about Will Levis from Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi as well. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and all of the bros are playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Love the platform, love the layout, love the setup on Yahoo Fantasy, and to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, more ways to win, and it all begins on August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We have training camp practice tomorrow. The Titans will be out on the field today. I guess if you're hearing this on Wednesday, I'm going to be here to break it all down with you guys on Wednesday night into Thursday morning on the Locked On Titans podcast. So make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. But we talked about the edge rusher news and the solutions that are available to the Tennessee Titans. We talked about some of the camp battles that we have to watch. Now I want to go over some of the big injury news that we got coming out of the press conference of Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker on Tuesday. Thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. But we got a disappointing update on L'Jarius Sneed. And yesterday we got the report that he was going to start training camp on PUP. We got the confirmation today, and there were questions asked. And Mike Borgonzi said that, I believe the phrase was in April, he had an issue in April that set him back. He had to have a cleanup surgery in May on the knee. That's been the problem all along. Now, they did say that his quad injury is healthy. It's healed, which is good because the quad injury was weird. It was like a strange, unusual injury. The knee is just maintenance stuff, but he had a cleanup procedure on that knee. Doesn't make me feel much better, if I'm honest with you. My hope for L'Jarius Sneed to, give the Titans meaningful snaps of football still remains low, like I said yesterday. But I guess it's a good thing that his quad isn't the big issue. But, the knee was something that was going to get worse with time. It's one of those injuries, like when we talked about Tajay Spears and not having an ACL. It's not like it's going to make him get hurt all the time, but he's probably going to have a shorter career because his body's going to wear down quicker because of this issue. Well, we're getting to the point where, L'Jarius Sneed in theory should have about 2 or 3, 4 more years in his career, but because the knee gives out, the knee breaks down, the knee wears down, he doesn't. This is the expected concern with the knee when you have somebody with this kind of issue coming out of college. Like, it's like, hey, it'll probably just make their career shorter. Well, the career is being shortened. You know what I mean? So I guess some people, and I guess I should feel a little bit better because the quad injury was weird and unusual, but at the end of the day, he's starting on PUP. He had a cleanup thing. He's not healthy. He's not as healthy as he's ever been and ready to go. Like, I guess technically speaking, like from the thigh issue that he had, the quad issue, he's as healthy as he's ever been with that, but like clearly was a misleading way to put that for L'Jarius Sneed. So that's disappointing. Cush on PUP, but that's to be expected with the Achilles tear. This is really where I got excited. These next couple of things. Kevin Winston is good to go, folks. The third-round safety out of Penn State, who I think has elite potential, the ability to be a star player. I wasn't really going to expect him to be able to give the Titans much until after maybe the first month of the season. But he's good to go, full go, 100% for training camp. Okay, if you could have told me that Kevin Winston was going to be full go for training camp, I would have been fine taking him in the second round. Like, Kevin Winston Jr. can be a star player for this team. And the fact that his development is going to be able to start on time, critical in my opinion. Absolutely critical. Also, no Dan Moore comments. No comments about Dan Moore, this and that, which remember, that last mandatory minicamp, I think the second practice, Dan Moore left early. Third practice wasn't there. And nobody was talking about it. Nobody was having questions. Nobody was wondering. And now I guess we would get our answer because they did not say he's starting on PUP or there's any issues. No one asked, no one discussed it, and I guess I'm going to believe that it would have been broached, it would have been discussed in some way if it had been something worth discussing. Someone would have found out something and asked some question. So we'll keep an eye on that for the first practice when we get attendance reports, but I take it as a good sign. Now, like I said earlier, Treylon Burks, good to go. I think I saw Teron Davenport mention that, he's still going to be gunner on special teams and doing stuff like that's probably his path to make the roster. And that's very disappointing to say about a former first-round pick, but that's where Burks is at. And again, I don't think he makes the roster. I don't think he makes the team. And I would not give any opportunities to him over guys who are younger than him who deserve those opportunities more. But the final thing that I thought was super interesting, and we talked about Levis enough yesterday. It's over now. I don't want to talk about Will Levis anymore ever again. But I'll say this. The Titans brass, Borgonzi and Brinker, were asked about Will Levis, and they said the Titans medical staff gave him full clearance for off-season activities. He had another opinion that said that he should go through off-season activities and then see how he feels. That's interesting. The Titans medical team was like, you're fine. You're good. Go ahead. And then Will Levis went out and got his own opinion that was like, I don't know. You might need to see how you feel after these mandatory, which if his shoulder was so bad that it needed surgery, why would his team and his second opinion tell him to go through off-season program? See, this is why I call BS on this. He wanted to get traded. If he would have got traded to a different team, he wouldn't be having surgery right now. 100%. But the last thing that they had to say when they were asked was, yes, he was full go, clear, during the off-season stuff. So clearly, like we already figured, the Titans and Will Levis don't necessarily agree on how this all went down. But no shock there. I think as long as you weren't naive, you knew that already yesterday when the news first broke. But with that being said, again, practice tomorrow. We'll be here to break it down. Cannot wait. That's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.